I bled out while my wife partied at her sister's gala. The last thing I heard before the world tilted was the distant, tinny thump of a bass line from Sarah's phone, a snippet of the gala's soundtrack she'd sent me. "Wish you were here, darling," her text read, followed by a sparkling emoji. I remember a faint, bitter smile touching my lips, even as the first wave of dizzying nausea hit me. Wish I were there. I wished I wasn't here, bleeding out on our cold kitchen floor. It had started innocently enough, as these things always do. A routine Sunday, or what passed for routine in our increasingly disjointed lives. Sarah, radiant in her new sapphire gown, had been fussing with her hair in the hallway mirror, her excitement for her sister's annual charity gala palpable. My chest, meanwhile, had begun to ache with a dull, persistent throb. It was an old injury, a remnant of a foolish dare in my youth, usually nothing more than a phantom discomfort on damp days. Today, however, it felt like a tiny, insistent drummer pounding a morbid rhythm against my ribs. "You sure you don't want me to stay?" Sarah had asked, her voice laced with a performative concern that didn't quite reach her eyes. She'd already called her ride share. Her clutch was in hand. "No, go," I'd insisted, waving a dismissive hand. "It's just a bit of an old ache. Nothing a few ibuprofen and an early night won't fix." I'd even managed a convincing smile, a practiced art born of years of minimizing my discomforts so as not to inconvenience her vibrant social calendar. She'd kissed my forehead, a fleeting brush of cool lips, and then she was gone, leaving behind a lingering scent of expensive perfume and the silence of a house too large for one man. I took the ibuprofen. Then another. And another. The pain, however, only intensified, blossoming into a fiery agony that seared through my chest and radiated down my arm. My breath hitched, each inhale a shallow, sharp stab. Panic, cold and sharp, began to prickle at the edges of my composure. This wasn't just an ache. This was different. I stumbled into the kitchen, gripping the counter for support, my vision blurring at the edges. A glass of water slipped from my trembling fingers, shattering on the tile floor. I barely registered the sound, or the sparkling shards. My focus narrowed to the searing pain, to the frantic drumming of my heart that now seemed to beat against my eardrums. Then came the cough. It was a deep, wet cough that tore through my chest, ripping something loose. When I pulled my hand away from my mouth, the sight that greeted me froze my blood, even as more of it welled up. Red. Bright, arterial red, slick and glistening in the harsh kitchen light. Hemoptysis. I remembered the term from an old biology class. Coughing up blood. A symptom, rarely good. My mind, despite the encroaching fog, raced through possibilities. Ruptured blood vessel, internal bleeding, the old injury finally asserting its terrible revenge. I slid down the cabinetry, my legs giving way, landing with an undignified thump on the cold, hard tiles. The world began to spin in earnest. I fumbled for my phone, my fingers clumsy and numb. Sarah. I needed Sarah. Or an ambulance. Either, both. Just help. I saw her name on the screen. My thumb hovered, trembling, over the call button. But then I hesitated. The gala. Her sister. This was important to her. And I was just, this. A burden. A spoilsport. The thought, ugly and raw, had festered for months, perhaps years. Our life had become a series of parallel lines, occasionally touching, but never truly converging. Her life, a whirlwind of events, friends, and social triumphs. Mine, a quieter existence, increasingly defined by the four walls of our home and the encroaching shadow of my own unspoken anxieties. I dismissed the thought of calling her and instead tried to dial 911. My vision swam. The numbers blurred. My hand shook so violently I dropped the phone. It clattered to the floor, face down, a dark, unresponsive slab. A metallic taste filled my mouth. More blood. I felt a horrifying warmth spreading beneath me, seeping into the worn fabric of my sweatpants. My breath was coming in ragged gasps, each one a supreme effort. The pain was no longer a drummer. It was a roaring furnace, consuming me from the inside out. Time lost all meaning. It stretched and warped, a distorted rubber band snapping back and forth. Moments felt like hours, hours like a fleeting second. I lay there, conscious but increasingly detached, watching the patterns of light on the ceiling, the motes of dust dancing in the air, a silent, macabre ballet. I thought of Sarah, laughing, dancing, her eyes sparkling under the chandeliers. Was she thinking of me? Probably not. Not really. Why would she? I was just home, resting, recovering from a bit of an ache. A flicker of anger, sharp and invigorating, pierced through the haze of pain. Why hadn't I insisted she stay? Why hadn't I told her how truly terrible I felt? Why did I always diminish myself, make myself smaller, to fit into the spaces she allowed? But the anger quickly faded, replaced by a profound weariness. It took too much energy to sustain. All I could do was breathe, or try to. The phone buzzed. I saw the screen light up on the floor beside me. Sarah. A text. Having so much fun. This band is amazing. What are you up to? I wanted to scream. To rage. To tell her I was dying, here, on the kitchen floor, while she danced to an amazing band. But my throat was too tight, too filled with a viscous, coppery fluid. I couldn't even lift my hand. I closed my eyes. The sounds of the house receded. My own ragged breathing grew fainter. The pain, paradoxically, seemed to dull, replaced by a pervasive coldness that seeped into my bones. It was strange, the thoughts that surfaced in those final moments. Not grand regrets or profound epiphanies. Just small, mundane things. The way Sarah crinkled her nose when she laughed. The particular shade of blue in her eyes. The forgotten promise of a trip we'd planned to the coast, years ago, before the distance between us became an unbridgeable chasm. The bass line from her earlier text, faint and distant, played again in my mind. A slow, rhythmic thud. It mirrored the fading beat of my own heart. The front door opened. I heard the faint click, then footsteps. Light, hurried footsteps. She was home. How much time had passed? Hours, certainly. The night had turned to a ghostly grey dawn seeping through the kitchen window. A gasp. Her gasp. Sharp, disbelieving. Oh my God. Michael. Her voice was laced with terror, not concern. Terror at the sight of what I had become. Terror at the mess. I tried to open my eyes. Tried to speak. To tell her I was still here. To tell her it was okay, or not okay. Anything. But my tongue felt thick, my lips unresponsive. My eyelids were impossibly heavy. I heard her scramble for the phone, the frantic tapping of numbers. The sound of her voice, high-pitched and strained, explaining to the emergency services what she saw. His bleeding. A lot. I don't know, oh God. Her words seemed to come from a great distance, echoing in a hollow chamber. The smell of her perfume, now mixed with the coppery tang of my own blood, was the last sensation I registered. The bass line faded completely, replaced by the rising wail of sirens, a mournful lament drawing closer, closer. And then, nothing.